Aloha and welcome to a League of Extraordinary Couples. And today I'm delighted to welcome from his California home, Michael Benner. He is a podcaster, a journalist, an author. I just got his new book, hot off the presses, called Fearless Intelligence, The Extraordinary Wisdom of Awareness. And he helps people in so many different venues, as a counselor, a hypnotherapist, a person who really helps us tap into our best selves. So how do we bring that forward? And he's going to help guide us in that today in our interview, which is entitled Fearless Love. So I'm going to let the camera come over to you to say hello, Michael, and then I'll ask you my first question.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Amy. Aloha. And gosh, I really appreciate being on your program today.
Wonderful. Well, welcome. And we're going to dive deep. I know that you have a rich, vast understanding from all the world wisdoms that you've studied and the writings and the people you've worked with and the people you've helped. And today we're going to ask you to focus in on your personal extraordinary relationship. So the first question is a bit creative and imaginative. So Michael, if you were to describe your relationship as a landscape, how would you describe that? What picture would you paint for us today here, briefly?
What a wonderful question. Well, the first thing that pops into my mind, and I love to trust my intuition, is a verdant forest, not unlike a jungle in Hawaii, actually. It's rich, it's green, it's full of promise and opportunity, it's fertile, and it's sweet and loving and natural. And my wife and I have been married for 23 years. We lived together for 6 years before that and knew each other for 2 or 3 years before we ever dated. And so to turn that around and work forward, I have found my relationship with her continuing to evolve. The nature of the love changes as we mature. There's always work involved, of course, but I find that the love goes from romantic love to a much deeper level of trust and respect and even tolerance as we develop our partnership as a kind of a team. And my wife talks about in difficult times, we ham and egg it. And what she means by that is if you're down, then I'll help you. And when I'm down, I expect you to help me. And we'll just hope and pray we're never both down at the same time.
And did you call that ham and egg it? Is that what you call it?
That's what she calls it, yeah.
I love it. I love it. So that's
together on the same plate.
Yeah, bringing each other up, and that verdant garden that's very lush and sweet and loving and supportive. And you and I have had the opportunity to speak a little bit about the essential ingredients that go into love and into the relationship. And you were just speaking about tolerance and trust and love. And I know we've talked about right before we hit record, we were talking about the importance of respect. So my next question for you, Michael, is if you had to boil it down, what matters most in relationship? If you had to boil it down, distill it to its essence, what is it?
I think respect. I think trust and respect are qualities of love. Most people misunderstand love, I believe, for many reasons. And it begins with the idea, the understanding that love is much more than an emotion. Love is actually a set of emotions. If you look at the dictionary, we'll talk about warm, pleasant sensation and affinity and attraction and attachment, perhaps, to another. Could be a person, could be an animal. People even talk about loving a situation or loving their car, as if love is an emotion. But then admonitions like love your enemy make absolutely no sense. So love has to be much more than an emotion. And it is. Love ultimately, when we capitalize it or speak of spiritual love or agape or aloha for that matter, we're talking about love as consciousness, as awareness, and that's a variable also. So on what level do we love? Are we aware of the need to evolve our understanding or our awareness of what love entails? And it begins with trust and respect. I think of those as a three-legged stool. Love, trust, and respect. Never marry somebody just because you love them. If you're going to couple up, you should love them and trust them and respect them. You'll need all three. But love also includes kindness and generosity and tolerance and patience. Love is wisdom and truth and beauty. Love is humor. Love is healing. Love is the magic elixir that vivifies life. Love, as many wise women and men have said, is the only thing that's real. In an impermanent world where everything material passes away, the one thing that is infinite and eternal is love. Yet the emotion of love can fade. So why would we say it's eternal? Because like the pendulum, think of the bottom end of the pendulum that swings as emotional love, but the top of the pendulum is the spiritual love, fixed, unmoving, unmovable, unified, whole, and beyond space and time.
Beautiful images. I love the idea of the pendulum and the fixed point at the top. And
it's
just
rich.
to make sure I'm getting you, did you say that the magic elixir that vivifies life, did you use the word vivifies?
Yes.
I think that I know a lot of words, but I don't know that one. Is it related to vivacious, or tell me what vivify is?
Yeah, and vitality.
Yeah.
Actually, I borrowed that phrase from a great mystic from about 100 years ago named Evelyn Underhill. And she wrote a book simply entitled Mysticism. It was groundbreaking in her day, the early 1900s, I believe.
Wow.
And for the intermediate or advanced thinkers and readers who like mysticism, it's really required reading Evelyn Underhill, Mysticism.
Wonderful. I made a little note of that, and perhaps our listeners did too. So
Good.
Let's think about that, the idea that love and the quality of love in relationships, that three-legged stool, the love, the trust, the respect, that you need all three. And from that, negativity comes up, the conflict, the discord, the disruption, the loss of connection, however you want to phrase that. What do you use in your relationship to help dissolve that negativity, or how do you work with it in your own relationship?
Well, the first thing I do is manage myself. So I go to a place to the best of my ability, and this is never easy. Sometimes it is, but depends on the magnitude of the friction. And we want it to be more light than heat. So that requires a breath or two and a letting go feeling in the body, because the limbic brain, the amygdala, the lizard brain, is going to tell you that you're in danger and you need to tighten your muscles. Your pupils will dilate. Adrenaline and cortisol will immediately begin to flow through your body, as if you were facing a clear and present danger in the world, and you're not. This is your partner, your lover, your husband, your wife. and ideally the most intimate and closest friend that you have. It's not an enemy. Mm-hmm. So we have to mitigate that emotional lizard brain, the amygdala, the fight or flight center, with the kind of calm, quiet, peaceful, relaxed feelings that we know how to generate and promote with our meditation. Mm-hmm. So you have to shift into that contemplative, meditative state. And I find breath does that for me. And then I remind myself that this is on me. Mm-hmm. That my feelings are my feelings. And yes, my partner is stimulating them, but they're my feelings. Mm-hmm. And this is huge. And when I present this to students or participants in a seminar, you can quickly see some people's faces light up, like, why didn't I ever think of that? And some people are horrified at the concept that they're not a victim. And they're going to have to be accountable for their emotional responses. And part of being a conscious, sentient being is lifting our reflexive reactions to a level of equanimity, to level-headed, even-tempered responses that we choose to initiate. Mm-hmm. So our first response has to be, what does this feeling say about me? Mm-hmm. And if you feel hurt or insulted, what part of me is confused? What part of me thinks they may have a point? Mm-hmm. It's not about self-blame. Right. Responsibility is not self-blame. It's the ability to choose your response. Mm-hmm. And once you get this cornerstone of emotional intelligence clear in your mind and begin to work with it, and if I may plug Fearless Intelligence, the book has techniques. It ends chapter 8 with a feeling dialogue where you use meditation and guided imagery to actually have a conversation internally with your intuition with that feeling. You dialogue with the feeling. And when you ask questions of your hurt, your heartache, your anger, frustration, irritation, it answers you intuitively. Mm-hmm. You'll never figure it out logically. And the more you think about a feeling, the more numb you become. Right. Thinking about feelings doesn't work. Mm-hmm. You have to feel the feeling in your body and sit quietly waiting for the intuition to reveal itself. I describe it in my seminars as being like teaching a child to feed the ducks. And the toddler initially chases the ducks and they all run away. But in time, you teach the child to sit quietly, wait, don't move, be patient, throw some breadcrumbs, and the ducks slowly move in. That's intuition.
I love that. You have the best images. I'm going from, the ham and egg to the ducks with the breadcrumbs, and it's very helpful for me. I know we're all different kind of learners in terms of how we take information in, but these images are just like, yeah, they're right there. And that, we have the three-legged stool, and then we need to take responsibility for our own emotions. And I am going to plug your book because I love this part where you talk, it's on page 47, and you're talking about love and fear. Because in the first part of this interview, I really want to dive deep in what is getting in the way of getting that connection that we want, that negativity when it comes up. It could be the fear response. We were talking about the limbic system. And you talk about those who ignore their fear and anxiety tend to interpret its vague, gnawing sensations as evidence that they are truly alone and life is meaningless. But individuals who devote themselves to self-discovery soon recognize love and understanding as the antidote to fear and ignorance. And then you go on to say that love and fear work together, like latitude and longitude. They are the coordinates that reveal our position between what we understand and what we do not understand. And positive love-based feelings encourage us to stay the course, whereas negative fear-based feelings disclose the need for specific course corrections. I love that.
I'm so glad you found that.
Yeah.
We should not be afraid of fear. We should not run away from fear.
Right.
Again, to draw a parallel, how many times in our lives, or maybe in the lives of people we know, do we see people substituting an avoidance of what they do not want for a goal? All right? It's like, I don't know what I want, but it doesn't matter yet because I'm too busy avoiding what I do not want.
Ah, I see. Yes.
But when you fixate on what you do not want, it's no different than fixating on a goal. What you do not want unconsciously becomes the goal. If I say to you, Amy, no matter what, please do not think of a purple elephant.
Right, right.
Right? So when we say, don't forget, wouldn't it be better to say this will be easy to remember?
Yes, yes.
Right? We have to.
Another way to say that is that worry is a form of negative prayer. Is that an extrapolation of that, would you guess?
It wrecks the word prayer for me, but I get your point.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Don't mean to wreck that word, but yeah.
I'll have to reflect on that. Okay. Yes, worry. The unconscious mind doesn't have a backup will or volition. So you think negatively, the unconscious says, we can do that. Right? You're worried about this? We can create that. That doesn't mean we should never consider the negative. It would be foolish not to. But we just can't dwell upon it. We can't fixate on the negative and live our lives trying to avoid what we don't want because we'll keep generating it. Consciousness is magnetic.
Yes. Yes. So
karma, the law of attraction and karma is not based on what we do or what we think or even how we feel. It comes from our intention. At the deepest level. It's the intention behind your thoughts and feelings, the intention behind your behavior that is magnetic. And that's why we need to be positive, goal-oriented, life-affirming. Look at the negative. It's a lot like driving a car. Here's another allegory. What percentage of the time do you spend looking out the window and then, out the windshield looking down the road as the driver, and then what small percentage of the time do you look down at the dashboard and check your mirrors? It would be foolish to ignore the mirrors and the dashboard. They're full of negative feedback indicators. But if you dwell on those, you're not looking at where you're going. You're going to run into a tree or something. So most of the time we have to look down the road, and then every once in a while check the gauges. So it is in life. Stay positive, set goals, begin with the end in mind. And then look at the possibility that things might go south. Every once in a while, if life is impermanent, all goodness goes sour once in a while, and the bad times never last too long. So adjust for the cycle. This idea that we ought to be happy all the time is ridiculous. We ought to be putting our attention on developing our skills and dealing with disappointment and disillusion and the tragedy and horror. The first principle of Buddhist philosophy is life is suffering. Let's get real. It's full of tragedy. It's often unfair. People and animals and flowers and plants we love die. It's all about loss. And, it's just much healthier and much happier if we know that and account for that and adjust for that. See
Yeah.
the great cycles. Get rid of the lines and the linear thinking and see life as the beautiful seasons that it is.
Right. I'm really hearing the both and. It's both knowing that our intentions are magnetic and we attract what we give attention to, and we need to look at the reality of what is. It's the both and. And so to sum up our brief interview, we dive deeply quickly, and we get to look at, if you were to summarize in a powerful way, what is it that helps deepen that connection? So if you were to look at your intentions in your personal relationship, perhaps what is one practice that you do in your relationship to help focus on the positive? It's a great segue as we wrap up our interview for today.
I think the challenge to each of us in relationships are imperative. We are social creatures. We need each other. It's the path home to wholeness is through loving relationships and partnerships and family, whether it's a family of two or more. Dedicating ourselves to helping our partner feel understood is far superior to winning an argument.
Yes.
Someone once said, if you ever win an argument, apologize immediately.
Love it.
Because you just made your partner and your best friend a loser.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we do with this conflict? We start by owning our feelings, as I mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. And then when you're clear on why you feel the way you feel, regardless of who or what stimulated it, they're your feelings, your inner, intimate responses. Take a breath and listen to your partner. Be the leader, be the first person in this couple to say, I want to understand how you feel. What is it you want me to know about how you feel? It's likely I won't agree with you, but that's beside the point. I will listen. How do you feel? And I'm here for you. Mm-hmm. And we'll listen to how you feel. Okay? You need to be in relationship, of course, with a partner who can express feelings without using the word you.
Right.
You ask some people how they feel, then they say, well, you are a jerk. You did this and you did that. That's not talking about your feelings. Mm-hmm. I had a couple once in my counseling, and I asked after about 45 minutes, the woman to turn to her husband and tell him how she felt. And she said, well, I'm angry and disappointed and sad and heartbroken. I feel abandoned and somewhat betrayed. And she was very eloquent. And then I had him play that back. And then I said, okay, now it's your turn. Tell your wife how you feel. And he looked at her right in the eyes, Amy, and he said, I feel you're a bitch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I stopped him and I said, that's not a feeling. He said, yes, it's how I feel. I said, no, that's what you think. You feel angry. Let's start there.
Yeah.
What's in the anger? Do you feel the hurt in the anger? Do you feel the frustration in your anger? Do you feel the sadness in your anger? Yeah. And men are socialized as little boys not to feel. Yeah. Yeah. So I think there's an extra burden on women to teach men how to feel. I'm using a broad brush, of course. Mm-hmm. But anything you can do as women to recognize that men are very different biologically. We say whatever we want about trying to change things to create more equal opportunities. We are biologically different. Men think about things, women think about people. Men are more likely, let me say that differently. Men are more likely to think, women are more likely to feel.
Yeah. So to help men get that opportunity to tap into their feelings, I think that's so helpful that you pointed out that thoughts can be disguised as feelings. And your example of that couple is important for men and women to recognize, that really understanding each other is going to help them progress a long way towards deepening that connection with each other. And
thinking about feelings is like balancing your checkbook based on how you feel about how much money you have. Stephen Colbert coined the term truthiness.
right, I
You
remember
know,
that.
about people who judge the world based on how they feel it ought to be.
Yeah.
And these are two intelligences. The mind is for understanding the world around you. The heart is for understanding yourself.
Yeah. Well, I think what we have given our listeners today is a taste of your vast intelligence, the fearless,
Oh, you're too kind.
fearless intelligence. And I believe you have a free gift for our listeners to dive deeper with you.
Yes, I would love to give people who listen to your program a free ebook of Fearless Intelligence, which is available on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles, and even your local brick and mortar bookstore can order it for you. But the Kindle edition, or the EPUB version, is normally $10, and I'd like to give that free to your listeners.
Wonderful.
And so I will provide you with a link that you can include for them to just go online, and they can download either or both the Kindle version along with an app. I'll include the free Amazon app so they can upload it from their desktop to their Kindle. And the EPUB, if they have Android or they want to put it on a smartphone or a tablet, or even iBooks, that comes with the Mac platforms. So free copy of Fearless Intelligence, because they listen to you.
Well, thank you. That's a generous offer, and we'll have all the details on the link listed below this email that helped you get to our interview today. So thank you for investing time in sharing your wisdom with us today, Michael. And thank you, listeners, for once again looking more closely at the power of the relational field, the space between. You matter and your relationships matter. Thank you, and be well. Mahalo.